Hi there, I'm Kimberly Ewing. I am the Media Lounge host for this morning, Sunday, of the Wild and Scenic Film Festival. It's the 22nd annual. We have been so delighted with incredible filmmakers, shakers and groovers coming here to our town of Nevada City and Grass Valley. Right now, I have someone I've been chatting with. His name is Jack Fisher. Welcome, Jack. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
So fun to talk to you. He's got a movie called Renewable, the Renewable, or
a Renewable Future.
A Renewable Future, and it's, you know, there's a lot to it to digest. First of all, congratulations on your film.
Thank you.
You had your showing actually twice. Tell us a little bit about how the showing here at the festival went for you and for the audience about renewable energy.
Well, the showings went really well. I'm just, first of all, so excited to be here. I've been coming to Wild and Scenic on tour in various parts of the country for maybe 15 years, and this is my first time at the flagship, so just super excited to be here. And
good.
I was really happy with how it went yesterday. We had a lot of really interested and engaging questions at the end about renewable energy, its impact on wildlife, and how hunters and anglers can play into steering that in the right direction. It was interesting. There were definitely some people who maybe definitely wouldn't consider themselves members of the hunting and angling community, and hearing the questions from their perspective was very interesting too. But overall, people were super interested, and it was a great few sessions.
Well, and what we were talking about, Jack, is renewable energy. It's going to happen. It's on, like we said, major implementation, major acreage. We've got to do it right. Why? Tell me a little bit about the dangers of the renewable energy. We're going to definitely get off fossil fuel, but when we instill these huge solar panel programs, why is it important to place them in the right place and utilizing people like the hunters and the anglers?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think most people agree we need to get off fossil fuels, and there's been historic amounts of funding going towards large-scale renewable energy projects. So renewable energy projects are being built. It is happening, period, no matter what.
Well,
so
this is good, right?
It is
but,
good.
Yeah.
But there is really no way to create development or live without having some kind of impact. And that's, the point of the film is not to make people feel guilty for that, or not to make people feel bad about that, but
right.
it's to make sure that people know that even though it's green energy or renewable energy, it still does have an impact on wildlife. So some of those impacts can be, obviously if you're putting a 3 megawatt solar farm in the middle of the sage somewhere, there's animals who live there.
That's right.
And to get the energy from the place where it's created to the place where it's going to be used requires transmission lines and roads or fences and different outbuildings, and it creates a lot of activity that slices across the land between the solar farm and the city. So with wind turbines, there's the same kind of issue: migratory birds, transmission of power. So really, what the point of the film is to make sure that people are aware that even though it's renewable energy, it does have an impact, and that we need to make sure we are thoughtful and very strategic about what that impact is, and that hunters and anglers have a particular special voice and perspective that they're coming from due to their knowledge of the land, the wildlife, the time spent on the land. And the film really wants to encourage hunters and anglers to speak up and use their voice, and also to just let people know who aren't in the hunting and angling community that hunters and anglers really know a lot about what they're talking about, and
right.
they should be listened to.
Well, and they, yes, hunters and anglers, and by the way, anglers, I had to find out, are people who fish. But honestly, they are in nature within the wild, and they do have, they are fishermen, or they are doing the things of wildlife, but they want to preserve and protect the nature too. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to go there in future years. So we need to kind of change our trajectory of what hunters and anglers can do, and give them some leadership. I think that would be a wonderful idea. Yeah. It takes a village to make things happen, and they really do know the law of the land there, don't they?
They do, yeah. And I think a lot of people might not know how big of a role hunters and anglers play in conservation in North America. The North American model of wildlife conservation is unique to here. There's nowhere else in the world like it. It ensures that wildlife is placed in a public trust, so everybody here, everybody listening owns the wildlife in America. And it ensures that we have we all have equal access to access them as a renewable resource, and that we have a voice to steer the direction of their management. And a lot of hunters and anglers and hunting and angling interest groups have done amazing work in wildlife habitat restoration, reintroduction of wildlife, stopping projects that would interfere with wildlife, or redirecting projects that would interfere with wildlife. There's organizations like the National Wildlife Federation and Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, National Deer Association, Trout Unlimited, Pheasants Forever,
Wow.
Ducks Unlimited, all these groups that really do amazing work to make sure that we have the wildlife and the opportunity to access that wildlife that is really a fundamental part of being American.
Right, and again, just opening people's eyes and hearts so that we can work together as humans.
Absolutely.
Right, and not divide. You're doing this, I'm doing this. It's like we actually, all of us together have talent if we work together.
Yeah, and we can't take it for granted either. I mean, the United States is, I think about 40% of the land mass is public land.
Public lands, 40%.
Almost 900 million acres that we can all access and use for different purposes. And that's also very unique in the world. So given that we have that resource and access to that, we really need to think about how to best manage that and make sure that everybody's voice is included.
When you show this film, do you often get people who don't understand, or is that the purpose of this film, is you're trying to expand their understanding?
I wouldn't say people often don't understand, but I think people just might not be aware of the work that the hunting and angling community does for conservation and like historically and ongoing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is kind of the point too, is to show people like this is a community that has a voice that is very, very important for these issues. And
one thing I was thinking about is the wildlife crossovers, those were happening a few years ago. And you were telling me off the air that there's just so many stipulations and so many challenges, but speak quickly about like why those aren't happening everywhere, because that seems like the wildlife can cross where a freeway is, but it's not always that easy, is it?
No, it's not. The wildlife crossings are a really great example of a great collaborative solution to benefit wildlife. They're basically a land bridge that goes over a highway.
Right.
It takes a long time to put them into motion and to build them, just because there's so many different stakeholders and land managers and different people debating about where they should go. So it takes a while. There's a lot that goes into it, but really I look at it more as a positive example of like, how can we take this complicated issue and come to a solution that we can then see every time we drive under it that benefits wildlife and the people who love the wildlife.
That's right. Well, Jack Fisher, it's been a pleasure. Will you come back to the Wild and Scenic here in Nevada City sometime?
Absolutely. I hope to.
Well, we so thank you for being here, and his film is called A Renewable Future. Thank you for being here at the Media Lounge. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.